Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today, we are going to study the best ways and better ways to practice our 2-5-1s. And if you're wondering what 2-5-1 is, I'm currently playing a chain of them. 2-5-1s everywhere, not just in jazz, but in lots of popular music and even in classical music as well. In a way, a 2-5-1 is a very classic form of a cadence approach, a way to resolve a phrase. And this really helps us, in a more broader sense, develop our chord fluency, our rhythm. It has so many benefits. The thing is, we just need to understand the many different ways of practicing it and applying it to our musicianship. So before we get started, if you are a fan of our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, you do need to head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, because you can get our 2-5-1 cheat sheet that will accompany this video, as well as all of our other free resources that accompany all of our other YouTube videos. So do head on over because you're going to need that crib sheet. The 2-5-1 crib sheet is going to be really helpful in helping you practice these chords and memorize them and get a sense of them. So let's start with the concept first. What is 2-5-1? Well, if I just measure it easily from a C major scale, chord 2, chord 5, chord 1. And in a jazz setting, we add dissonance to it. We add sevenths to it, such as this. D minor 7 is chord 2. G7 is chord 5. And C major 7 is chord 1. The chord 2 is a minor 7. It has that lovely minor mellow tone to it of the minor 7. The chord 5 is a dominant 7. And a dominant 7 has that very much it's about to resolve sound to it. It's a leading chord, a chord that leads us back to chord 1. And the chord 1, a major 7th, has that lovely, relaxed, happy sound of the major 7. I always think the major 7 chord sounds like it's on holidays. It sounds like a major chord that's sitting in a lounge chair somewhere, enjoying a cocktail or something like that. So that's our 2-5-1. Minor 7, dominant 7, and a major 7. So that's another benefit to practicing our 2-5-1s is we gain some clarity as to the 3 types of 7th chords that there are. The minor 7, dominant 7, and major 7. So we're going to go through our lead sheet, our crib sheet, our 2-5-1 crib sheet, and you can see that it's in different keys. For instance, we have a 2-5-1 in the key of C major. And then we have a 2-5-1 in the key of G major. But before we get to playing it in this basic way, we do need to think of having some inversions to help us play this better. Because just jumping up like this is not a really good way to play a 2-5-1. Just jumping around the keys in general, it's not very efficient, and it also doesn't sound as musical. So a simple inversion we can apply immediately that works very well is we start our chord 2, the D minor 7 in this case, and you can apply this system to all of your 2-5-1s, then simply just drop the top 2 notes. And we have our G7 in this position. Rather than this position, we have our G7 starting on the D, F, G, and B. And then we resolve to our C major 7 in root, C, E, G, and B. So that's much more efficient. So this is a really nice way to practice our 2-5-1s. So let's do this in some other keys. What about the key of G major? Remember, we're in the key of G major here, so we have to remember our F sharp, which is in the D7 chord, and then our G major 7 chord. Now, what about the key of D major? And now we'll go to the key of A major. And again. And the key of E major. And the key of B major. I'm going to add some left hand. Now the left hand, I'm just playing the bass note of each chord. We'll do B major again, which starts on a C sharp minor 7, F sharp 7, B major 7. And I can do that across all 12 keys. But many of you are going to find getting the coverage of 12 keys in one practice setting quite difficult. That's totally normal if you do find that hard. So what are some ways we can work towards getting all of this in 12 keys? Well, the first thing you can do is you can remove the seventh. You can just focus on knowing your triads. A lot of people struggle with seventh chords because they simply don't have all of the triads in their muscle memory. I see this with students all the time. They're like, they want to play the sevenths. They're like, oh, I don't want to simplify things, Tom. Please don't simplify things. I want to play the advanced stuff. I want to challenge myself. But if you can't quickly find a C sharp minor triad when you're in the key of B major, well, putting the seventh on there is going to be a bit of a stretch. So you can even go through that crib sheet and you can just put a little tick next to the keys that you're less familiar with, that feel more like foreign territory. And everybody has those keys that they tend to gravitate towards more, and the keys that they don't gravitate towards more, they just sort of avoid, and there becomes a gap. And that's a very common problem that people encounter. So just mark those keys that you might struggle with. Like B major is one that people often struggle with. Which is strange because it's a very easy scale to play, actually, B major. It's one of the easiest scales on piano. Chopin taught his students B major first because it fits the finger shape perfectly. But B major does produce chord shapes that are less familiar, such as a B major 7. It's one of the only chords that has this finger shape. So the muscle memory might need a little bit of reminding on those types of chords. So let's look at some keys that people sometimes typically find difficult and take out the sevenths. So we can do a 2-5-1 in the key of B major without the sevenths. And I'm still going to use an inversion here. I'm going to lift the top two notes to get to my chord 5, the F sharp major, just to get some clarity. What about, we'll go back to A major again. So A major, chord 2 is B minor. I'm lifting the top two notes to get to the E major. So that's a clean rendering of the 2-5-1 without the sevenths. And that just gives me some clarity of my triads. What about a key like B flat major? 2, 5, 1. Very helpful to do. What about a key like E flat major? 2, 5, 1. And then we'll add the sevenths. 2, 5, 1. When you're practicing, spend some time just on 1 or 2 keys. So there are 2 strategies you can apply to your practice here, where you pick a key. It could be a key like E flat major or B major or A flat major or A major, any key that you feel you need to spend some time on, and spend some time just practicing in loop on that key. Sometimes just with the triads and then adding the sevenths, sometimes with inversions, sometimes without inversions, sometimes in the right hand. What about A major? 2, 5, 1. sometimes in the right hand, and sometimes in the left hand. Because in certain scenarios, you're going to need to play these chords in the left hand. And when you do, they can't really be down here. Doesn't work. So when you play 2-5-1s in the left hand, in a lot of jazz, it'll often be in the same position you would normally play it in the right hand. And the right hand just goes higher to improvise lines over the top. I'm just improvising in the key of A major over the top of that 2-5-1 in the left hand. So that's one very effective practice strategy, is to spend more time on one key, just to really deep dive that key. And then another practice strategy is to try and get coverage of all 12 keys in one sitting. That's a really useful thing to do as well, despite it being challenging. So that might be a more long-term goal. So how do we get coverage of all 12 keys in one go? Well, one way of doing it is to create nice sequences. So this is a way of getting at least a bunch of those keys in one go. And this is a 2-5-1 sequence that I quite like playing. So we're going to go back to C major, 2, 5, 1. I'm going to put a bit of a groove on this. I'm going to give it a slightly Latin vibe. Now, I'm going to now turn that C major 7 into a C minor 7. And it's going to start my next chain of 2-5-1s, which will be in the key of B flat major, because C minor 7 is chord 2 of B flat major. And I get this pattern. Now I'm going to go to a B flat minor, which is chord 2 of A flat major. A flat minor, which is chord 2 of G flat major. F sharp minor, which is chord 2 of E major. E minor, which is chord 2 of D major. D minor, which is chord 2 of C major, and I'm back to where I started. That was fun, let's do it again. So that's a way of covering a bunch of keys. This doesn't cover all 12 keys, that sequence, but it is a very enjoyable sequence. Another way of covering keys progressively is a practice technique I call 2-5-no-1. And we just leave out the chord 1, which is the resolution chord. And we just practice a sequence of 2s to 5s. And this really speeds up our practice. 2, 5. Now I'm going to go down a half tone, a semitone, and start the 2-5 of B major, which is C sharp minor to F sharp. This is quite challenging at first. C minor to F7, B minor 7, E7, and so on. So these are just chains of 2-5s without the 1. And if you look at the relationship of a 2-5, I mean, literally hundreds and hundreds of songs have those types of progressions in them. So by learning to do this, your fingers are gaining coverage, and your rhythmic understanding and muscle memory is gaining coverage of literally the content of hundreds and hundreds, thousands, in fact, songs. So your chord fluency will improve. So it's worth persevering with this more challenging approach of removing the chord 1, because it speeds your thinking up. It speeds your muscle memory up. So for instance, if I just play the 2 to the 5 in the key of C major, which is, there's no C major, that's the thing, I've ditched the chord 1, D minor 7 to G7. And by the way, you should head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to get the crib sheet that comes with this video today, because you can look at it, you can cross out chords, you can annotate it, you can play around with it. So get that crib sheet, because it's there to help your practice. So we've got the D minor 7 to the G7. Then you'll notice the relationship between those two chords is a D to a G. It's going up a 4th in the left hand. So I've got that. So that going up a 4th between both chords, dropping the top 2 notes, I can do that in every key, just going down in semitones. Now again, if you're finding a particular one difficult, I think what a lot of people find difficult is just finding the minor 7 chord, B minor 7. But if there's a particular sequence you find difficult, just break up the progression into groups of 2. Yeah, so there I've covered all 12 keys just with the 2 and the 5. Very, very useful stepping stone to getting this in all 12 keys. And a lot of songs just have 2 5s in them. You hear it in a lot of the funky stuff, the Motown stuff, a lot of pop songs. A lot of music just has the 2 5 without the 1. So that's a nice little workaround our 2 5 ones with a different practice strategy. So here's another practice strategy. I'm going to show you 2 more, which I think are very powerful. And again, head on over to the website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to get the resources kit so you've got the tools you need to practice this. So I think the thing with practicing piano is it gets very lonely sometimes. And you're just by yourself in a room. But music is a very social thing. Often we're playing piano for other people, for singers, for horn players, for friends singing along with us. And you want to put yourself into those scenarios to get a more holistic musical training, even if you're having to imagine the scenario. So we're going to imagine the scenario that I'm playing a bunch of 2 5 1s in a song for a singer, a really nice singer. And so how would I do that? What sort of song is it? Is it a ballad song? Is it a swing? Is it a rock? Is it a funk? Is it a Latin? Well, let's say it's a ballad, because ballads are nice to practice. It slows things down and we want to be quite thorough here. So I'm going to imagine I'm playing a bunch of 2 5 1s for a singer in a ballad style. So again, if I start in C major with our 2 5 1, I'm going to slightly arpeggiate the chords now. And what happens in the majority of 2 5 1 sequences is, this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand about 2 5 1. It's not just a chord sequence, it's a rhythmic sequence. It's not just 3 bunch of chords, 2 5 1 next, 2 5 1. It's actually a rhythmic sequence, and often the chord 2, not always, but it will last for a bar. The chord 5 will last for a bar. But the chord 1 will go for double the time and last for 2 bars. So that resolution just continues a bit longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even if in a faster setting where it's double the timing of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The chord 1 lasted a whole bar, whilst the chords 2 and 5 was for half a bar. So the chord 1 is for double the time, and that's part of the rhythmic cadence and sequence of 2-5-1, and again used in so many songs. So let's now imagine those scenarios of we're playing ballad for a singer, and it's the middle 8 of a song with an endless chain of 2-5-1 chords, and this time I'm going to be random in the key that I go to. So I'm going to just play it in one key, then randomly go to another key, then randomly go to another key. And you can do this in your practice. You can generate your own 2-5-1 chain progressions, totally random. In fact, there's no such thing as random. Any combination you will use will sound good because 2-5-1 can chain compatibly onto any other key without any problems. That's the miracle of our equal temperament piano tuning system. So thank the piano tuner for that. Let's do it. Ballad style. We're doing a C major one. Now I've got that extra time on chord 1 so I can arpeggiate up the piano. What about D flat major? G flat major. F major. A major. G major. No 1. We're going to go to another key, G flat major, but no chord 1. F major, but no chord 1. D major, but we'll finish on chord 1. And of course, there are other techniques like quick, snappy 2-5-1s in the left hand, with the scale being played in the right hand. There's really endless combinations, so get to work on it now. Remember, don't feel overwhelmed. Take one step at a time. Being overwhelmed is quite normal. We live in a world where there's too much information being thrown at us, and I'm partially responsible for that by throwing today's information at you. But just take from today's video, because we've been doing this for years at the school. We know how to coach students and bring them to improvement. What you're seeing on these videos is just the surface. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, whoa, how do I get to this? Just look at the next 2 steps. What are the next 2 things you have to do to make that next improvement to your 2-5-1s? And then revisit this video, and then what's the next 2 steps after that? And again, you can always get in touch with our amazing team at the school by visiting our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, if you want a personalized plan to really boost your piano playing, because our team are the world-class standard of piano coaching for today's 21st century piano student. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today on 2-5-1s. It's one of my favorite topics. I can sit down for hours and play these chords. So thanks for hearing me out, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.